Welcome to PopNerdery, the show that is nerdier than becoming the high school drama club president in order to practice your getting shot physical reactions, only to then subsequently actually be shot by another member of said drama club.
That's real. That struggle is real.
PopNerdery Podcast. This is a place where you are allowed to have an opinion on anything in pop culture, but you got to have more than just a little bit to say. We'll pick out some of the headlines that have us talking this week and making up for last week, do a deep dive, and then give our pop culture recommendations. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. I'm your host, Brent, and with me, as always, is Dave, the Vesuvius to my Emmett. What's up, buddy?
Hey, buddy. I'm still on my adrenaline rush from the hallway scene part 2 from season 2 of Daredevil. I'm pumped.
That's real.
Nice. And the almighty to my Bruce, Toph.
Hey, Brent.
Hey.
Your favorite rapper's favorite blogger. I felt like it was time to bring that back out. It's been too long.
Nailed it.
I'm ready to come back in. And speaking of your favorite rapper's favorite blogger, there are ways you can follow us here at the PopNerdery Podcast. The first one is on the Twitters, at PopNerdery, PopNerdery. Commenting things as they happen. We basically just misuse Twitter. Whatever you think that, here's how I use Twitter, we're doing it wrong. So enjoy. Welcome. Welcome to the PopNerdery Twitter.
Should I be taking that personally?
Oh, God, no. No, absolutely not. To be fair, I misuse Twitter worse than anyone else, so I'm basically setting a very baseline for you to supersede. So you're doing great. You're fantastic.
Nailed it.
Thank you, I guess.
I exist to set the common demeanor to everything, be it Twitter or the podcast or anything else. Precisely. So that no one needs to feel bad about how they use anything.
I really appreciate it that you tore yourself down to build me up. I really appreciate that effort.
That's sacrifice.
I'll always be here for you. I am like the bodyguard. I will Kevin Costner you out of here and carry the PopNerdery Twitter in my arms out into the rain.
Very nice. I'm going to send you a friendship
bracelet.
And
things that are less weird than that. There are a couple of ways you can listen to the show. The first one is on iTunes. Fire up the podcast section, head to the search bar, type in PopNerdery, and you'll find us. You can subscribe there. You can review us. You can rate us. You can type nice things about us because you love us, and you do. The second way to listen to the show is to head to popnerdery.com. We archive all the episodes there. You can find us in the comments arguing about things that don't matter, but that's neither here nor there. No, it's fine. No, it's cool. You can just find us there. The third way to listen to the show is to just simply enunciate how much you love Deadpool and just gush, and then close your eyes, and Dave will appear over your shoulder to discuss his love of Deadpool with you right there, over your shoulder, live and in person.
We're asking you very early in the podcast to make liquid, and if you do that, Dave will podcast live in your ear.
I'll be there.
It can be audio liquid. It doesn't have to be physical liquid. However, if you can actually just gush Deadpool out of your mouth, we would like to see that, and we'd like to include that in our podcast.
Oh, very exciting. Guys, as Brent made reference to, we did not do this last week. So we have a little bit of news to catch up on. We are inexplicably, somehow, going to start out with Harrison Ford this week. I didn't think when we started talking about things, started talking about the news, that we were going to talk about Harrison Ford. When we get to our B segment, we'll be talking about Marvel and DC bitch-slapping each other around all month in the month of March. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about a little movie about a guy who has a hat and a whip, and we're going to get Topher a little angry, a little riled up, just to start this thing off. Holy shit, he just put on an Indiana Jones hat for you.
Wow. You did it.
Go ahead. Continue.
It happened.
So this week, both Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford confirmed that they were going to come back for an Indy 5. I believe that our thoughts about Indy 4 are fairly well documented in these parts, but I'm just going to go ahead and let these guys talk a little bit about how they feel about Indy 5. Go ahead, guys.
Dave, Why does Spielberg want to rape my childhood? Why does he want to keep doing bad things to me?
Didn't he see that episode of South Park?
I can't win. And oh god, I struggle with this so hard because
thoughts, words,
I'm
make
trying.
babies.
So Steven Spielberg is unapologetic about 4.
Yeah.
He thinks that nuking the fridge. He's actually proud of that entering the lexicon. Like, we used to discuss things that when things went bad, they jumped the shark.
Right.
And then there was an additional entry into our lexicon that was nuking the fridge. And instead of feeling shame about that, which is, what he should have done.
The correct reaction.
He was very proud that he had introduced nuking the fridge into our lexicon. So yeah. I can't come up with another scenario in which he's just excited about shitting on my childhood.
Yeah. If I had that ET money, though, I don't know if I would feel shame. I feel like shame would be a thing that I forgot how to feel if I had that ET money and that Jaws money and that Jurassic Park money.
Well, and I'm not saying that money. I'm not saying you should ever be ashamed of producing more movies, but he's actively proud of something that I think that something that we are reticent to do on this podcast, but I'm gonna speak for all nerds when we say
here we go.
Nuking the fridge was not a proud moment for us.
No,
that was cringeworthy.
Honestly, worse than nuking the fridge was all the weird CGI ants. I thought that was a weird thing.
He's proud of that moment in which we all went from Indiana Jones is a hard-ass motherfucker to Indiana Jones hides in a fridge and gets nuked, and none of us can explain it. But he has come out multiple times saying, I'm proud that I've introduced that into the lexicon. I can't defend this guy anymore.
Can I stop just for a moment of a sidebar here?
Yeah.
Do you guys know where that sequence actually originated?
It was a much older movie, and it was supposed to be in. Tell me, I know this.
Okay.
It was supposed to be in Back to the Future.
Yeah. Back to the Future. That moment was something Spielberg read in a script and goes, "Wow, this movie's going to be great." And then Zemeckis never ended up going forward with that part of that story, and that's why Spielberg later was able to go, Indy 4 could use a cool sequence.
So you're both agreed that Steven Spielberg is bullshit.
So they
No, wait.
We had this debate a while ago.
All I want to hear is whether you guys are going to defend that moment or not. Something he is very proud of. He truly has come out in multiple interviews and said, I am proud that nuking the fridge enters our lexicon.
Do you think he's just laughing at himself? Haha, I'm proud of that. Or you think he's listen, seriously?
No,
that movie.
Yeah, had he done it in a ha-ha way, in terms of woof, yeah, that's not how I wanted people to take it, but I'll live with it. Instead, he was just I'm super proud that nuking the fridge enters the lexicon, in terms of, because he knew what jumping the shark meant. And he's saying, I'm happy this has replaced it as another horrible cinematic moment where you're saying something in pop culture is now garbage.
Yeah.
So a couple things here. Toph has admitted on this podcast and over beers in my personal life how much he does not have love for Steven Spielberg in the way that I think most other filmophiles do. That said, I think you still
certainly
genuinely respect him and appreciate what he has done for.
Raiders is as close to a perfect movie as you can possibly get, right? I'm not a Spielberg denier. I will happily celebrate the best of the things he's done.
Yeah.
And that said, there are still very campy moments that happen in almost every single Indiana Jones, every Spielberg movie, but every Indiana Jones movie. And I think we all, because they happened when we were children the first time we saw them, get to look past the things that happen in Temple of Doom, or
we're not even talking about Temple. Temple of Doom doesn't barely exist.
because that one's pretty bad.
Spielberg himself disavows that movie.
Yeah, the beating heart. I mean,
it's all
those
bad.
Those
It's
moments happen regardless, right? But we saw the nuking of the fridge happen when we were adults and who understood a little bit about physics in a way that moment couldn't just kind of be a silly thing that happened and we looked.
Sure, and I would agree with that if Spielberg had not disavowed that, basically that whole movie, saying like it was wrong, it had the wrong tone, I just don't like it. But then he's very proud of nuking the fridge, because I can kind of get behind the other things I don't like in that second Indiana Jones movie, but then, because quite frankly, I think we can all probably agree that the Temple is better than anything that has Shia LaBeouf in it.
Nailed it.
You don't think so?
I think it is debatable. I think
okay.
I think I'm the minority on this podcast that 4 gets a bad rap. It's not a good Indiana film, but it's not a bad film, if that makes sense.
You think that it is equivalent to Temple, is what I'm hearing.
Maybe, yeah. It's
okay.
far better than, say, the prequels were Star Wars films as an Indiana film.
I can agree with that.
That's a good comparison that I don't know that we've necessarily ever brought into our lexicon.
Debate. Yeah.
Certainly. And then I think that you maybe have a better argument saying that if you look at Temple and the Fourth are better than 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I would argue that, and maybe this is just because by route of there are 3 movies versus 2 movies, that you can maybe argue there are better moments in the first 3 prequels versus those 2 bad. But my problem is that one of those terrible movies happened before arguably a very good movie in Crusade. So, at the very least, George Lucas and I have a terrible history. He is my horrible ex-girlfriend who has done nothing but beat the shit out of me.
But he was such a good lover to start out the relationship that.
And it just went all bad.
Yeah.
After that. But go ahead, Dave.
I was just gonna say, I think just to kind of wrap up the Indy, but my bigger problem is not so much that Spielberg has done me wrong so badly, but that after Indy 4, I felt like they wrapped up the loose ends and that there wasn't much left to say.
Yeah.
He got married and rode off into the sunset, and then Shia was there, and we all thought, all right, well, Shia's going to make Indy movies now.
Now we get to watch Mutt Williams and the discovery of Elvis Presley.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to. I don't think they're going to bring Shia back for these things.
Dave hit on the crux of it, which I'm willing to. And once again, I saw Indy 4 in theaters, just like I did 2 and 3. So I will go and see this. And my only hope is that with the subsequent Star Wars films, where we all kind of didn't think that Harrison Ford could do much, we're like, I don't want to see a crippled trying to do this role. And he in the end turned out to be very good, probably beyond our expectations, I think, right?
So, yeah, definitely. Because of Dave's point, I'm very curious to see how they handle it. They tied up all the loose ends. Indiana was finally gonna settle down and put the whip up and all that stuff. So the only way, from a story standpoint, that Indy 5 works is if there's somebody, whether it be Shia LaBeouf as Mutt, or whether it be someone that is a academic that knows Professor Jones or something, and pulls him out of, say, a semi-retirement type of a thing, to play the Sean Connery role.
The same thing,
whether it's his father, whether it's his son or not. That same type of comic relief.
The same thing they did with
Elder.
Han, where Han was no longer the driving force in the story. He became and truly, I honestly think that maybe, I think 4 was crippled. Yeah, I don't like Shia LaBeouf in that role, but I think that the storyline was probably too bad that no matter who you put in it, it would have looked stupid. So my only hope is that they've seen what Star Wars has done.
Yeah.
And
I think
go ahead.
It's Kathleen Kennedy, so she's definitely seen what happened.
She ain't dumb. She does good movies, right? So I'm willing to give that a loose call.
the hard part about this is that this movie is called Indiana Jones and the. If Star Wars 7 was called Han Solo and the Force Awakens, it would have been much more difficult to slide him into a backseat role. Harrison Ford also, for some reason, was talking about Star Wars this week. I don't know if it's because the Blu-ray for The Force Awakens actually releases next week or 2 weeks. April 5th is when we're going to get the Blu-ray for this movie. So maybe he was doing press for that or something. And he was out there again for some reason talking about spoilers for Star Wars. But if you listen to this and you haven't seen Star Wars 7 yet,
spoilers.
I can't help you. He was out there again talking about Han Solo dying in Star Wars 7, and he put it as clearly as I've ever seen it, so I thought it was worth mentioning. He wrote, "I think it's a fitting use of the character. I've been arguing for Han Solo to die for about 30 years, not because I was tired of him or because he's boring, but his sacrifice for the other characters would lend gravitas and emotional weight." And I think he reads it. If he would have said, "This is a boring character. He should have been gone for a long time ago," I would have had issue with it. But he's right. That character really worked as a character who made an ultimate sacrifice, quote unquote.
And spoiler alert, I don't know that you could have had a better ending to Han Solo than the one that we got. As seminal a character as he was, like, that probably was the best way to go out.
Yeah.
We are very pro Han on this podcast.
Yeah.
Which then also lends to, if you're going to kill that character, traditionally I think you would have thought that we would have been very upset about this. However, with time being a flat circle and everything else, that's the best way he could have gone out.
He's not gone.
No, it was the appropriate way, and you felt like they gave the appropriateness to that character, and it fit the story. So
yeah,
that felt like a very good out. It didn't feel cheap, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
And that's why Harrison was so on board with it. So
certainly,
it was well executed. Well,
I would say he's no dummy, but he did, Indiana 4, so he clearly can't understand when something is good.
And I do think that Harrison or that Han Solo is a character that works best in small doses, and that's why he works best in Episode 4 and Episode 5. But whether I think that or not, we do have a solo Han Solo movie.
Indiana Solo movie? Because I'm fucking interested in that.
A solo anthology film is what I meant to say.
We have a fifth solo Indiana Jones film coming out, and a solo individual Han Solo.
And I'm only excited about one of those things. All the things you just said, only one of which piques my interest.
So it was last week. They talked. Hollywood Reporter brought us the short list for who's left. So there's a guy named Alden Ehrenreich who is in the most recent Coen Brothers movie, Hail Caesar. Jack Rayner, who is in the most recent Transformers. I don't know what the most recent Transformers was.
There have been a lot of those.
Taron Egerton, who is from Kingsman, which we all really liked, Kingsman.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also mentioned Blake Jenner, who is in Glee, and some guy named Jack O'Connell that I don't know. But of those, I'm glad to see that there's no more Dave Franco. I don't mind Dave Franco as a comedic actor, but he's not Han Solo.
It's a bad idea.
But I am happy to see Taron Egerton still here. I know that he is British, but I really liked him in Kingsman, and he had a swagger about him that Han Solo needs.
You
Yeah,
don't think so?
He would be fine. I think I've kind of settled on is it Jack Rayner? I think that's who I'm thinking of. That's kind of who I've settled in on. The guy with kind of the gross beard in a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
Right? I just think he has the look, and then I've kind of like watched a few clips, and he's got kind of like an aloof swagger.
And I want to be clear, all of us have beards. We're pro beard.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah.
His is just
he's got a gross beard. We have like manicured, like manly beards. He's got like a beard that like you grew when you were 17 and kind of are still working on it to come in on the right spot.
I had a very bad beard at 17. That's a great point.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he looks like he's 17. I know he's probably not. I know he's probably in his mid-20s, but he looks
grows
like
a 17-year-old beard, so he's not qualified. I'm on board with this. Yeah. No, I agree.
Ladies are into the child, man.
In non-Han Solo, Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones news, we're going to quickly kind of talk about some Marvel and DC stuff. We would be remiss if we didn't mention the most recent Captain America Civil War trailer that came out. First of all, it was a great trailer. They probably could have just released the trailer and not had anything really new in it, and I still would have loved it. I still would have thought it was a great trailer. But we got our first look at Spider-Man in the MCU, and I know that you guys have been a little down on why do we need another Spider-Man in the movies. But I really like what they did with the design of the character, and I think they're kind of setting themselves up to be able to like go through the different eras. So the Spider-Man costume looks a lot like the original Steve Ditko, kind of the cartoon from the 70s mask, and it has the big red spider logo on the back, and he's red and blue, and he doesn't look like he's wearing Reebok sneakers.
He's got Spider-Man eyes that like contract.
Correct. Yeah. And the eyes are expressive, right? And they make like little mechanical noises so that you can tell why it's happening.
Like a half-ass character in the film. Like they recognize that he's the junior of all truly. I like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's important.
Yeah.
Yada yada. But like all of the run up to this movie has done what I think is an incredible job of including characters like Black Panther and some people who have, and even Adaman, who hasn't gotten a lot of love, even though he had a solo pick.
Yeah.
But like they brought it in the way that I think that characters would actually react to him.
Right.
As like a weird teenager who does weird shit. Now, we're happy to accept him into this realm. However, we're also going to recognize that like this is a weird like teenager spider boy.
Yeah. And I mean, he doesn't look like a spider boy. Holy shit, that he looks jacked like a Spider-Man.
No, totally.
But he does
my own.
He does sound like a 15-year-old, which is what you want. You want him to be quipping, and you want him to sound like a teenager and talk like a teenager.
He should be the Marvel version of Deadpool. And the squinty eyes basically do it with less R-rating commentary. R-rated.
Yeah. Spider-Man should break the fourth wall. If you guys, both have,
maybe.
You guys both have sons. So one thing I would recommend is going to Netflix and watching Ultimate Spider-Man. It's a cartoon, and it's really well done. It's really smartly done, so that way you can enjoy it and they can enjoy it. And Spider-Man breaks the fourth wall a lot of that show. I watched a couple with my nephew.
I have a 2-year-old who's read Dark Knight Returns, so I don't think I'm gonna do that.
It's actually pretty good. I would say of the animated series that have come out in the last 5 to 8 years, I think you could watch it and you could enjoy it. It gives you a lot of like Marvel cameos that you probably don't expect.
And to be fair, my son never had a chance, so because like our go to bed story right now is we're in the middle of Long Halloween.
He's out there telling you what would be a good death.
Totally. We're like months away from doing Killing Joke. So,
You're reading it during the day and Long Halloween at night?
No, we just read Long Halloween at night. Like, I don't need to break up the in between. It's just like, this is the kid who goes to the, we go to the library and pick things up. He's like, I want a Batman story. And I'm like, okay, well, you've picked it. Do you want JLA? Like, and he goes, I don't like Superman. And I was just like, I've never been more proud of you than I am right now. So
there we go.
You know, for you normals who have children, Dave is entirely correct. For you psychopaths who are raising a child like I am, probably not so much.
There you go. Speaking of Batman and Superman, the initial reactions to Batman v Superman have started to roll in. That movie comes out at the end of this week as we're recording it, and the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are kind of mixed. I'm sticking just to Rotten Tomatoes, so I'm not reading like full reviews, but the little snippets are saying, you know, like 45% so far, 45% good, 55% bad. And so the two things that are getting a lot of praise are the two things that I care most about them getting right, which is Affleck as Batman and giving Wonder Woman a little bit of spotlight and not just like shoehorning her in.
Yes.
And both of those things are getting pretty good reviews. The criticisms that I've seen are on the it's a little CGI heavy, and the pacing and the story of the story and the action is not great. And those are just general Zack Snyder criticisms.
Right.
It seems a little lazy. It might be true, but it seems a little lazy if that's where you're going to stop on your criticisms. But I'm excited to see it this weekend. We're going to talk more about Marvel DC in our B segment, but I thought it was worth mentioning that those first reviews have started to roll in a little bit.
And it's funny, and I think we need to do a very deliberate job of this in stating how abundant CGI is in films like this today. So when people say they used a lot of CGI, that really actually means you noticed a lot of CGI.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
because every film today in this world uses a lot of CGI. Mad Max, which is praised over and over and over again for its practical effects, used a lot of CGI, but it's bad CGI that you notice that becomes the issue.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to
I think
hop on a soapbox real quick.
No, but that's a great point. When you look at like something that's a little less revered, like Hellboy, in Hellboy 1 and Hellboy 2, you know, that's ass deep in CGI.
Yeah.
But it didn't ever take you out of the story.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the criticism I've seen is when Snyder movies in particular are more reliant on CGI telling the story as opposed to actually doing the work and the heavy lifting of building characters. So, moving on from a Batman movie that I'm kind of dreading because I really want Batman Superman to be good, and I'm not optimistic at the moment, to a movie that I'm very, very optimistic about. Lego Batman released some images this week, and they released their first logo this week for their poster, and we're supposed to get a trailer this week. So I could not be more excited about a full Lego Batman movie. I hope that they don't overload it with too many like weird cameos and stuff, but I love Will Arnett, and I loved Lego Batman in the Lego movie. I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
If you guys take a look at the poster and the different kind of visual images that they released, it's very Batcave heavy, which is, you know.
See any labels?
Yeah, I wish.
Bat 66.
At Bat Labels, by the way, gave us a shout out for that recommendation last week. They were very gracious. Okay, just two more things, and then we'll get into some Marvel DC. Daredevil Season 2 launched this week. Reviews overall mostly positive. I guess the general reaction was not quite as good as Season 1, but still very good. And I would tend to agree with that. I did binge through the whole thing this weekend, so when you guys are ready, we can dive into that a little bit more deeply. The piece of news that came from it for me, though, was that after you get done streaming episode 13, there was a short teaser for Luke Cage. So nothing really new that we've seen because we saw a lot of Luke Cage in Jessica Jones, but they did give us a title card with hip-hop and a new logo, which I thought was pretty cool, and it kind of served to show you what the like tone of it's going to be. So I feel like Daredevil and Jessica Jones were different enough, but this is going to be something totally different that Marvel hasn't done before, with a totally different lead character. So I'm very excited about that. And it doesn't spoil anything from Daredevil, so if you just want to go on YouTube and find that Luke Cage teaser, you can totally do that. And then the last thing I have before we jump into the B segment is it was announced, I think today, maybe yesterday, that Peter Serafinowicz is going to play the Tick in Amazon's new live-action The Tick show. I don't know if either of you guys were fans of The Tick when it was Putty from Seinfeld.
I liked the cartoon more than the live-action, frankly.
Okay. But and if you don't, if listeners out there, or if you guys aren't as familiar with Peter Serafinowicz, or you're trying to distinguish him,
you are.
or you're trying to distinguish him from the other British folks that I say their names occasionally, he's the guy in Guardians of the Galaxy that says, "What a bunch of a-holes." He's that guy. So, and I think he is going to be great as a deadpan The Tick. I think he's going to be fantastic in that.
Yeah, I could see that working very well. I would assume he'll be an American, and I don't know, like that character is so off the radar for a lot of people, even though there was the cartoon and the live action film, that, you know, launching it with a new actor, I don't think will make it a challenging character for people to adopt and understand or appreciate, especially if it's done comedically. So yeah.
And so if they're gonna go deadpan, they just use stock Peter Serafinowicz. But if you want to make him a goofball, you can actually. There's a really great episode of Parks and Rec where he plays like a doofy, like English lord who likes to hang out with Andy from Parks and Rec. So I would certainly recommend that. All right, guys.
Funny enough, the voice of Darth Maul, for those who enjoy a little bit of trivia now and again.
Yeah. Voice of Darth Maul. Yeah. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about something that dominated probably more of mine and Topher's childhood than we are proud to admit. The blood feud between Marvel and DC, and how it has continued on this month, particularly with Marvel just popping DC right in the mouth as they're trying to get their cinematic universe off the ground. So we will regroup on that in just a second, but for right now, we're going to jump to our first break.
Today's show is brought to you by Amazon. Go to PopNerdery.com/Amazon and shop just like you normally would. Get the same Amazon products that you know and love, and you can even support the show.
So, for instance, when you're doing your weekly 11-inch pewter wizard collectible shopping, you can go straight through the PopNerdery.com/Amazon link, shop like you normally would.
It's perfect. Pop Nerdery's part of the Amazon Associates program, which means you get the same selection, the same tragically low prices of the Amazon that you know and love. And if you're a Prime member, you get the same Prime 2-day shipping that you normally would get. Plus, you support Pop Nerdery, and that's it. It seems pretty basic.
What's not basic is deciding whether Stormborn the Warbringer goes on the left, Draws with the Hated goes on the right, and which one of them is finally going to get that coveted middle spot. That's complicated. This is easy.
Exactly. None of this is complicated. Bookmark PopNerdery.com/Amazon in your favorite browser today, and remember, click it every time you shop.
Welcome back to the Pop Nerdery Podcast. In this B segment here, we're going to just completely ruin your childhood. We're coming hot and fast, and we're just going to wreck your childhood. And truthfully, it doesn't matter if you're a DC kid or a Marvel kid, we're going to upset you one way or the other.
Probably.
Because that's the entire crux of what's happening right now in the nerd world, is whether you're excited about Batman v Superman or you're pumped for season 2 of Daredevil.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of stretch out into this because there are very few times where we have such a obvious choice between the two.
Yeah.
And in this podcast, it's pretty obvious that we're actually going to celebrate both. Mm-hmm. However, it's what I'm very curious about and want to discuss is which one of these two universes are you invested in and is your priority? Because that's what I think a lot of people are facing right now is that, hey, I could stay home and, if you're very lucky, you've already done all of, Daredevil Season 2. And that's, I think, I'm going to say that's the minority of people, Dave, as you pump your arms over your head.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of like going to the Mexican buffet. Like, you're going to get a lot of the same flavors. Like, if you go enchilada versus burrito versus nachos versus taco. But, there's a hard choice there because there's so many options.
It's just which way do you want to go? And that's what I'm actually more curious. And this definitely is not a Marvel v. DC conversation because, quite frankly, if you've listened to more than, 15 seconds of this podcast, you're pretty aware that we're into both of them. It's just now...
And if you haven't, how the fuck did you get here?
Yeah, you're really lost, and I'm sorry. Please go back to episode 1 where we kind of set the table as to why you're listening to three humongous dorks discuss these kind of things. So the fact remains that I am way more invested in Daredevil Season 2 than I am Batman v Superman. And I say that as a person who has been very clearly laid out in the past 18 episodes as a pro-Batman kind of guy.
Yeah. I think the main thing that most people will bring up to kind of start this conversation is that Marvel has a huge head start, right? So they have the benefit of time with you. So it's like, if you're dating your high school girlfriend, right, for 2 years, and then you meet that new girl at college that is, slightly mysterious. There's an unknown factor. She'll probably let you down.
And into Indy rock.
Yeah, but there might be something new, right? There might be something there that you've never sampled before, and that's kind of the difference for me between the.
Wait, which one is which side of this argument?
So Marvel. So to set up my analogy, Marvel would be your high school girlfriend, right?
Okay, and DC is the. Wait, DC is the new girlfriend who takes me to Indie Rock?
Chick. Yeah, so I'm just talking about the just the universe, the movie universes.
Sure.
So the MCU versus the DCEU is what they're calling these things.
Oh God.
I know.
We're angry about their acronym choice.
Right.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. So the Marvel just has had more time. They have taken the time to build to Avengers 1 and Avengers 2 and Avengers Infinity War and this Civil War where they're going to cross over all these characters and they're all going to punch each other in the face. They've built to that, whereas DC watched the Avengers come out 3 years ago or whatever it was, and they said, shit, can we get some of that Avengers money? Like the Warner Brothers president.
And so they made Gotham?
No.
So their immediate reaction.
We're just talking about the movies, and they're like, damn, do we really want to recast another Superman? No. So what are we going to do? How are we going to make our Justice League? Well, why don't we just have this one big movie that introduces everybody and set the table that way?
But and I think what is Gotham doing?
It's separate. It's separate. They're like, we're going to make
your argument, but we're talking about the primary thing from Marvel's universe is that we're pumped about Daredevil Season 2, which opened just directly in competition with Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I would agree with you in terms of cinematic features, but like they made Gotham. They have to pay for their crimes.
Well, that's the other thing too about DC. Is that they have put all their chips for their movies into the movie basket, whereas Marvel has kind of spread it out to say, listen, we can flesh out our universe on ABC and we can flesh out our universe on Netflix and give 13-episode binges that have more mature content.
And they're admittedly tied. That was one thing we didn't cover up top in the A section. Jeremy Renner came out this week and said he'd be glad to do a Hawkeye Netflix TV series. And for characters like But for characters like that or Black Widow or whatever, that can absolutely, it can live in a different way for whatever reason.
I actually disagree, Toph. I would love to have a Hawkeye solo series. If you haven't
done your head at some point,
if you haven't done it yet, I don't want the Jeremy Renner bland Hawkeye that they put in the movies. I want them to give him something to do. And what you do is you take him out of the element where he is not, like, Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye referenced it in Avengers 2. He was like, listen, this city is floating and I'm trying to fight it with a bow and arrow. Like, he knows he doesn't belong there, right?
Well, then you take him. You go somewhere else.
Yeah, you take him and you put him in a Netflix series, and I don't know if you've read it or not yet. But
we did that. It was called Arrow, and I didn't fucking want it.
No, I'm talking about doing a comedic, like, I don't know if you've read it or not yet, but the Matt Fraction, David Aja Hawkeye book, the most recent Hawkeye solo book.
I have not.
It's fun. It is very fun and very. It makes you value that character. I never valued Hawkeye until I read it.
There's nothing in those movies that makes me value Hawkeye or Black Widow, to the point where I just actively wish they would both die and we could get other heroes in there.
Jesus, man.
And I think that's what Marvel,
not the people who played them, just the characters.
I think that's what Marvel does well, though, is that Marvel has convinced us that they can do something different to serve the character, right? So Marvel has given themselves the freedom to make things, to say, well, Winter Soldier's going to be a political thriller, and Ant-Man's going to be a heist movie, and
we've discussed at length how well we think they've done these things, right?
Yeah. And I just think that DC is making the same mistakes with their movie universe that they made with their comic books for a long time, where they're making everybody paint with the house style. And that house style isn't a thing that's enjoyable to spend 2.5 hours straight in, because it's so dark.
I agree. Your point is not misspent. However, I think that there are certain characters I just like. The inclusion of Hawkeye and Black Widow into the Avengers movie are truly like you're setting me up to. You're going to include characters that I don't care about. That maybe I will hopefully care about other characters. And I think maybe it's the only misstep. Like, we're well known in this podcast for enjoying the way that Marvel has set up their movies. So, we're definitely nitpicking. However, I really feel like, I don't want any additional Hawkeye or Black Widow in my life. I don't really need that. And we've also, I think Dave maybe has a little bit of a separate idea, but like I didn't want a third Thor movie.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Toph, you're talking about people that are just a little bit beyond you. Maybe there's one sitting on this podcast who's a little bit, preceding you, where frankly I didn't give two shits about a Daredevil series or Luke Cage series or Jessica Jones series.
That's a good point.
If it's good enough, and it adds content to the world that gets extra context
that we have gone on record of saying as we love. So I get what you're saying.
I mean, for whatever reason, these characters appeal to different people. I mean, sometimes on this podcast, I think all of us love Batman and hate Superman, but there are people out there that love Superman. So I totally understand. Like, these are successful IPs for some reason or another, and so if you get to actually go take some time and explore these characters, there's probably a Hawkeye fan out there somewhere, and there's certainly Jeremy Renner fans, and that adds a little bit of additional Hollywood power when you get a guy like Jeremy Renner to play Hawkeye in a Netflix series.
Right. You're right. I didn't couch my argument correctly. Like, I love the Hawkeye books. It was just in the context of the Avengers and the way that they presented him in this universe, I didn't have a use for him.
Yeah, that's true.
It felt very extraneous. However, if you want to go back and explore something different, maybe I did. Help me out. Am I off base here?
No, you just sound like a robot from a droid from Star Wars.
Am I a sexy droid?
You're better now.
You sounded like that annoying droid that loved torturing the other droids in Jabba's palace.
That's exactly who
I
you
was
sounded
searing feet? Is that what you're saying?
No, like the guy that was in charge of that room.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't want that. I want to be the searing
You
feet guy.
are a protocol droid, are you not?
That's exactly who you sounded like.
I'm sure my point was valid. My presentation obviously was not.
I was writing down to edit that out, but now that we talked about you are a protocol droid, are you not? I'm leaving it in now.
God damn
I'm just
it.
leaving it in.
You sounded exactly like that.
I sounded so smart in my head in presentation.
No, you did good. I do want to point out two things about Hawkeye and Black Widow real quick. One, Jeremy Renner can say he wants this Netflix series all he wants. There's no fucking way we're getting a Hawkeye Netflix series, right? I don't think Marvel has any interest in making those characters any bigger than you do, Toph. And two, I mean, I get you that you're not interested in those characters, but Marvel needed 2 cheap characters to throw into that movie. Because one guy shoots lightning bolts from a hammer, one guy has a super suit, one guy is Captain America, and
one
another
guy is
entirely
CGI. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So they needed 2 cheap characters, and Hawkeye and Black Widow fit the bill. There's a practical reason.
I want to back up because I want to give Brent his credit. He's right. I didn't know that I wanted a Jessica Jones series until I watched it, and I think
they gave it to you. Yeah,
right. And that's Brent nailed it on the head. There is that maybe if they gave that character the same treatment they gave Jessica Jones, I would be into it.
Yeah,
it's just in the context of the movies as a whole. Those are the characters I'm least invested in. However, I didn't know I wanted, Daredevil was Ben Affleck in the fucking, Elektra movie, and that was fucking terrible. And then we got this series, and it was golden, right? We both really, and we're now very excited about this. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give Brent credit. He made a very, very good point that truly I would have never been like, I am pro Jessica Jones until we fucking had it. And then we had it, and it was like, this is incredible. Like, this is probably one of the best, I think I might actually like that better than I like Daredevil, and I'm really, really into Daredevil. But Jessica Jones did something for superheroes that we haven't had in a long time. So I think Brent has a very good point in that until maybe...
Thanks, man.
Until you see it.
Yeah, until we give this a loose call and say, let's explore it, then, maybe you're right. Maybe that can be a character that I can get very invested in.
And my biggest thing is that somebody somewhere is probably a fan of that character because they've always collected those comics. And it will, hugely make their position in whatever their stance on the Marvel Universe that much stronger because of it. So.
Yeah, my recommendation would be Matt Fraction and David Aja's Volume 1, which I think is called My Life as a Weapon. It's the first 6 issues of their run, and it's great. It's just if you didn't care about Jeremy Renner and you were actually rooting for him to die and not Quicksilver in Avengers 2, you should go back to that. So
I want to revisit the core topic is why we just spent the last 10 minutes talking about Marvel, and Superman v Batman is coming out this week, and we can't muster the same enthusiasm for it. This podcast is very clearly pro Batman.
Right.
We're into it, but why is it that we're less invested in that than we are but Jessica Jones was great and Daredevil is awesome, and what if they did this? Why are we not pumped about a DC universe they're A-level people coming in?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing is it feels like they haven't earned it, right? It feels like they're jumping straight there and they're shooting the moon, and if they miss on this shot, it could ruin everything, so you don't want to get excited about it. Whereas Marvel hasn't had a true miss yet where oh geez, this was terrible.
Well, we're talking about worse. We didn't really love some of the Thor movies.
Right.
That's their miss.
Right. And or for me personally, I didn't like Iron Man 3, but it was a Shane Black written Iron Man movie that a lot of people did like.
It was not great, but it's serviceable.
Right.
But meanwhile, we're getting Superman versus Batman.
We're going to literally see on screen the Batman Superman fight from the end of Dark Knight Returns. That is, we're gonna see that on screen, and they showed us enough in the trailers to know that that's true.
And we're talking about Daredevil right now,
and we can't get it up for it. And I think one of the reasons why you love that fight in Dark Knight Returns, and you're not excited about it now, is that they earned Dark Knight Returns after 50 years of publishing comics.
Right.
Whereas this is like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to cherry pick the best thing about this medium that's ever been written, and we're going to do a somewhat that. We're going to give you the suit, and we're going to give you the... and I don't want to, like, bury this thing before I even see it.
No.
But there is a reason that you guys are saying, hey, I probably won't see it on this first weekend, so our Batman Superman review episode won't happen right away. Or Brent even, like, before we started, Brent said, hey, I might wait until this one's out of the theaters unless you guys tell me I need to go see it. And that's kind of crazy for a movie that's supposed to be this big and is tracking to make like $1 billion.
When you say Batman versus Superman, the assumption is like, holy shit, everybody in nerd culture is in.
Right.
However, I don't disagree with your premise in terms of like why we're not into it. It's just like, especially when you consider how the visceral reaction to the last Superman movie, versus like Superman killed a ton of people.
Right.
Which, is partially why I always say fuck Superman, because Batman kills no one and Superman just murdered like 1,500 people, like minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
But we're not into that. Like, where's the disconnect coming?
So you're saying partially it's because they didn't earn it, and partially because they're building on a bad foundation.
I think so.
That the first thing that we see with Henry Cavill is this Man of Steel movie that we can't get behind.
Yeah, and I think that maybe, and again, I am reading my own dislike of Superman, specifically the cinematic Superman into this, but it doesn't come with a Superman redemption story. I think if there was an angle to that, and that I think that obviously that is going to be a key thematic point to this movie, is that kind of redemption of Superman.
Right.
Batman and Superman are going to fight for a long time, and then there will be some kind of redemption for him. And then Wonder Woman shows up, and then even the news this week was like that Snyder had to be talked out of putting like two more villains into this movie.
Yeah, he was going to stick Riddler and Joker into the movie.
Yeah, and it's just like that's.
God.
And I'm so very happy that Wonder Woman is in here, because I think that's an important thing that should happen, and I would love to have her own movie come out of this, and I'm pro that. But truly, the only story I want to see is Batman fighting Superman in some kind of Superman redemption, and like some capitulation to, oops, I killed a bunch of people and I feel bad about that. And maybe it's just that, once we come out of, like Dave said, we don't want to bury this before it started. However, my only hope for this entire movie is that Batman kicks the shit out of Superman and Superman feels bad about it. And short of that, I kind of feel like there can't be a win to this movie. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, do you guys have a different perspective on what the ultimate success of this movie could be?
So I feel like I'm setting the bar really low, but the win for me is that they set up a Batman that I can believe in, right? That Affleck's Batman is good. Affleck's Batman sets up a story to where he could give us a prequel movie to this.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna jump back on you. Yeah. What is the win for Superman? Because in a perfect world, right, we get Superman and Batman movies and a Wonder Woman movie out of this, right? Like, this is the movie that launches 3 different franchises.
Two.
Am I wrong?
Because Superman's already been launched, but yes. Yeah.
But I kind of feel like you got to go back and make some apologies for that last movie.
Yeah.
Is that just me? I want to hear your opinions, but like, is it just me that you kind of feel like you have to have some kind of
sure, but you don't need a hard reboot.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like,
that movie happened.
Yes, but this is the movie that then branches out from this nacelle of this movie. Then 3 other movies come out of this one.
Nacelle. Star Trek guy.
Did you not think this was a nerd podcast? Sir, you're in the wrong place. You think I was going to use the word incel in this podcast. But truly, like, my hope is that this is a point that, like they're saying, we get a Batman that we can look at and go, holy shit, give me 3 more Batman movies. Give me 3 Wonder Woman movies, and give me 3 Superman movies that all branch out of this thing.
Well, the hope is that you see in this movie that they get these characters in the same way that we want them to get these characters. That they from here forward they're going to put these characters on model. That Superman's struggle isn't whether or not I can break a guy's neck or whether or not I can defeat an enemy.
Right.
Superman's struggle is internal, that I can't save everybody even though I'm all powerful, and that I am lonely even though I am all powerful. That's Superman's struggle. Do they get that by the end of this movie? Maybe, maybe not. Do they get that Batman is a detective, and do they get that Batman is a guy who puts principle above all else? Do they get that Wonder Woman should be a bright, shining symbol of power and strength and feminism? Do they get these things? That's a win, because I don't feel like there's any way that the story of this movie is going to be satisfying for, like, story lovers, for people who like good writing in movies, because they've jammed too much into it. It
looks like action piece after action piece after action piece, right?
But if the end of the day we all come out with I don't think we have to wonder. Well, here's the worst case scenario: is that Batfleck is bad, Superman is still the same Superman he was from the last movie, and they underuse Wonder Woman, and she's a token female.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it cripples.
Very, very bad. Yeah.
That cripples everything, which I think that kind of has to be like our baseline expectation, because they haven't done well.
They haven't done anything yet, yeah.
Right. So,
podcast listeners, this is our eternal optimist, Toph.
Well, no, but I want these to be good. Like, I would like another Superman movie that I could finally fucking get behind Superman.
Yeah.
I would like a Batman that doesn't make me want to tear my fucking eyes out with the fucking bad voice. And that was so funny when Christian Bale came out and was like, Heath Ledger came on set, I don't know what the fuck to do, so I just made weird Batman voices. Like, at the very least, like, I related to that as a human being, because, like, you know, I get that. Like, that's tough. When Heath Ledger comes on set and he's crazy and amazing, like, there's very little you can do with that. The answer is not the Batman voice. You know, I would have hoped he had come up with something better than that. But, you know, in the best case scenario, this movie becomes a springboard for 3 different franchises.
Right.
And that would make me really happy.
I think so. We talked about this. I think it was episode 13 or episode 14 when we talked about that Atlantic article about Superman, the problem with Superman. I think the biggest problem is that, aside from Batman, DC doesn't really understand its characters.
I think that's a big problem.
And for me personally, there are only like 3 DC characters that I care about to begin with, that are outside the Bat universe, right? So I care about Batman and all the Robins and Alfred and Batgirl, and, like, I care about all those characters. But outside of the Bat universe, like
Wonder Woman,
I care about Wonder Woman. I care about Martian Manhunter.
I'm kind of out.
And then am I done? I mean, I care about this Grant Gustin version of the Flash. I like that.
Some of the villains, maybe a little bit, right? But again, most of those are Bat universe. So
maybe that's the the perfect outcome of, even if everything is bad and this tanks.
Yeah.
We could still maybe get a Wonder Woman movie, a Martian Manhunter movie, and a Flash movie, because that truly, if I think that Batfleck will work. And he will get at least one more movie. Everything we've seen has shown us that he can carry the mantle.
Right.
And granted, we have a very small sample size, but it seems pretty clear. Superman is a character that I would really love them to get right, but they seem desperate to get it wrong. So, maybe that takes a couple of years. So I guess what we're saying is the, like, negative outcome is that maybe we get a Martian Manhunter movie out of that? Because, my feelings are clear on that. I'm fucking pro that.
I legitimately think the best version of Martian Manhunter you're going to get live action is on the Supergirl show, so you should just start watching that. Carl the Destroyer told me that he's caught up on Supergirl and that it's worth watching, that I should be watching it. So I might try and catch up on that. And I think the best version of The Flash you're going to get is the Flash TV show. The best worst-case scenario for me, the only thing I really care about in this movie is, one, do I get to see Superman get punched in the face? And do I get to hear Batman utter the line, just remember that it was me that beat you? Which is all I want to hear. And then does it set up the Bat universe? As long as I get that, I don't really care about anything else. And I like Wonder Woman, and I think it's important that Wonder Woman becomes fleshed out as a character for like meta reasons outside. But in terms of do I care about Wonder Woman as much as I care about them not fucking up Batman for the next decade? No. That's all that really matters to me personally.
So, Dave, you got really close to a poignant point a little bit ago, where you talked about there's only a couple characters in the DC universe that you truly care about.
Right.
I think most comic book fans or most comic book movie fans at this point care about a lot more than just a handful of comic book characters, because they've had places to live and breathe, and that's exactly what Marvel's gotten right and DC has gotten wrong. And again, that goes all back to character, where we have these action pieces from DC, other than some of the Nolan stuff and some of the early Superman stuff and some of the Tim Burton Batman stuff. All of it's just action piece garbage in Hollywood, the movie stuff. How do you get that? Well, you introduce these characters in a movie like Batman vs. Superman, say Wonder Woman, for instance, and you make her important and you make her interesting, so people crave a character piece about Wonder Woman.
Right.
And then you introduce these smaller characters in tiny little tidbits of these bigger movies that launch these other franchises and make people care about characters that they know based on name or look, but never thought to ever read the books on, never thought to, figure out why that character has lived as long as it has in this world, etc.
Yeah.
And so I want to jump back here quickly. Dave and I are both, hands down Batficionados, I guess is the nicest way I can put it, and we're very invested. I am far more curious, Brent. What is the outcome that you would like? And I think you probably touched on some of that in that last portion, but maybe you're saying in a perfect world, this comes out and it's good, bad, indifferent. Where would you like? I guess what I'm asking is, in a win, where would this movie come out and say, I'm going to give you other things? Where?
Okay, so Dave already kind of touched on this. I'm very much in the camp of, prove it. This movie is not a movie I have been antsy to see. It's not a movie that I'm eagerly, looking to buy a ticket for the first showing of. If a bunch of people say it's good, I'll probably go see it in the theater. If a bunch of people say it's really good and this character is really interesting, then I'll probably be watching for that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I need to see in that movie that, the whole Batman versus Superman thing is maybe just the first part of the story.
Right.
I want this to be a Batman versus Superman. We are adversaries because we don't understand each other. And, in the moments of the most animosity possible, we've learned to understand each other, and that spawns the Justice League. That spawns why they feel that working together is a better alternative than working, in a way that pits each other as adversaries.
So, is that what, is your optimum outcome where you have the birth of the Justice League?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And because of that, I think that everything I've read about the movie is supposed to be doing that. But if it seems contrived and not a natural, organic type of a resolution to the Batman versus Superman thing, then I, just like many other viewers, will cry foul. We'll see it as a money grab more than anything else. The story, the character development, the interactions between two people that are fighting each other, going head to head, coming to a moment where they realize they're the most powerful people in this universe and they need to be doing good. that's the stuff that's compelling to me as a moviegoer, and where I'm going to give two goddams about the next movie that comes out.
Because there are a lot of people who are asking just for another Batman v Superman movie. Like, the whole entree to this is that we want them to fight again, right? Like, that's
really?
Yeah, I've seen a ton of that. Yeah,
I think there's like fanboy stuff out there like that, but DC's been pretty clear.
Well, no, I'm not. I want to be clear. I'm not talking about anything canonical or anything else. The whole hope is that, like, in this movie, like, I'm running out of examples. It's almost like a Godzilla thing, right? Like, where Godzilla fights Mothra. Like, you want to then see Godzilla fight
another big action piece, yeah.
Right, and so that's why I feel like maybe we're kind of outside the zeitgeist, where we're hoping that, like I said, I'm hoping that it spawns 3 other franchises. So, Brent, do you have a different thing? Like,
well, I do have one kind of angle that I think if people are just looking for action piece, and maybe one way that they can differentiate the Justice League from, say the Avengers, even though Civil War's coming out. I think one thing that you guys have kind of introduced to me, actually, since I'm not a big comic book reader, listeners, is that Batman has a plan for how to defeat every one of the other characters of the Justice League, right? And so if you can, by the end of this movie, say, all right, here's Batman and here's Superman, they're working together, but Batman back in the Batcave is already brewing up some great ways to defeat Superman, who he now knows, and Wonder Woman, who he now knows, and maybe there's a couple other allusions to other Justice League characters that they're recruiting or whatever. Those give us the teases that we need for future, installments of this franchise, and also lays a really cool foundation where I can watch Batman, or I can watch Bruce Wayne go back to the Batcave and work on the stuff that he knows is important in a way that is not contrarian, but adds an additional element to this joint Justice League action pieces.
Right. You just put way more thought into tying these movies together than anyone at Warner Brothers has.
Warner Brothers, this is my resume that I am presenting to you. If you are interested in getting me to come do some storyboarding with you, I am amply available to be flown to Hollywood tomorrow or next Thursday. It's an open day for me. Whatever works better for you guys.
This is something that Dave and I have both advocated for, and part of the Bat mythos that we love is that Batman is just a dude. He has a bunch of money and he can do a bunch of stuff, but he's up against a lot of different characters who have a ton of actual powers that he has no context for. So he has to plan for, JLA Tower Babel that I recommended
is the best version of this.
It's just like that. What Brent touched on, which I would just my pants would fly straight off my body if we had that kind of representation where he goes, "All right, Superman, I can work with you," which is the kind of the whole basis of the Justice League, right?
Right.
And we touched on this in episode 14, 15, where I discussed my love for Martian Manhunter, who acts as the fulcrum between those two powers in terms of all right, you're a guy who has a bunch of money and has a plan for everything, and you're a supernatural guy from another place, and can you both just fucking knock it off every once in a while? Can we just fucking deal with whatever situation is in front of us? I think Brent touched on that point exactly, which would actually make for some incredible Batman, Superman movies leading into the Justice League where you have to respect that dichotomy, but we have to come to that understanding first.
Yeah, and so in the way that the Marvel Universe kind of used Iron Man as the connecting tissue, they used Robert Downey Jr. as the connecting tissue to those movies. You would see him in post-credit sequences or whatever, where they talked about the Avengers Initiative. It would be great if in little post-credit sequences or in little cameos, you would see Bruce Wayne kind of putting that plan together. And that feeds through.
And it makes sense because he's got the money and all that, right?
Right. And it feeds through to the third Justice League.
Batman has no powers. He has nothing except for, money and intuition.
Bandwidth.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the best and most recent version of Batman always having a plan in our recommendations. If that isn't a good tease, I don't know what is.
I sure as hell don't know.
So I think that we've ambled wildly for an appropriate amount of time between how we'd hope that the DC universe can kind of catch up with the Marvel universe that we've said for a long time.
Yeah, and I just think it's, for me, the funniest part of this whole thing, of this whole Marvel versus DC, is the timing of how things come out. Marvel knows that they're standing on third base while DC is just grabbing their bat to come up to the plate.
Yeah, at plate.
And they're still just sitting on their little brother's chest and slapping him on his cheeks. And just saying you know what, you're gonna release Batman v Superman. You know what we're gonna do 2 weeks before that? We're gonna release Daredevil. You know what we're gonna do a week before that? We're gonna release our first look at Spider-Man. Fuck you.
Yeah.
It really is like when we were kids and Marvel and DC used to just kind of jab at each other, and whether it was on the pages of Wizard or if it was openly Stan Lee, fighting with some DC writer. I love it. That's my favorite part of this whole thing.
Nothing is ever better when then both of them are actively engaging with one another.
Yeah.
Because we get more good stuff out of it.
Yeah.
And, on this podcast, we have expressed our affinity for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, we've also spent a lot of time talking about how impressed we are with the Marvel Universe and the way they've done their moves. So, I think that truly, for all nerds worldwide, the best thing can happen when these two entities are fighting one another, because it usually ends up with some really good stuff.
Agreed.
So, that's going to end our B segment. I would love to hear whether you're excited for Batman v Superman, if you're excited more for Daredevil, if you're excited for the things that are come out of either one of those. I think, quite frankly, most of us as nerds are pretty excited to just have all of these things happening on a global scale, which is truly, every once in a while, we got to look around and go, it's pretty good. Things have happened now we're pretty lucky to be living in this era right now. So, that said,
we're doing good.
It's the golden age.
You're doing good. I want to hear in the comments. Are you going to Batman v Superman? Are you staying home to binge Daredevil? Which side are you more excited about? And conversely, where do you think they can do well? We talked a lot about in the B segment how we would hope that this is the springboard to do things. So I'd love to hear about where you think, hopefully both of these universes are going to go. And with that, we can go into commercial. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Go to popnerdery.com/audible and sign up for a free trial to support the show and get hours of entertainment.
So by entertainment, do you mean the acid reflux that I experience sometimes when I have a few too many nachos and sodies?
I want you to think about that and reverse it 180 degrees, and yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. With the free Audible trial, you're going to get 2 free audiobooks. So right there, those are words for your ears. After the trial ends, you get an audiobook a month for $14.95. You get 30% off any additional audiobook that you want. So when you're just craving them audiobooks and want to keep shoving them into your ears, this is the way you do it. Cancel at any time, finish the subscription, and the best part, you get to keep the books even if you cancel. Take that, Netflix.
Keep the books? Like I keep my Maylocks on the shelf? Pop Nerdery brought to you by Maylocks. Oh, no, sorry, wrong ad.
Audible. Go to popnerdy.com/audible to sign up for your free trial. Then tell your friends so that they can have audiobooks.
And welcome back. So thank you for bearing with us during segment B there while we tried to debate the merits of DC and Marvel all at once in a haphazard way. This is the C segment where we will give a couple recommendations to one another and hopefully bring a few things onto our radars that should already be there, or if it isn't for you, will be very shortly. So let's throw it to Dave first, because I think he's got a couple of things he's pretty excited about.
Yeah, I teased this so expertly during our RB segment, but we talked a little bit about...
so well.
We talked a little bit about how Batman, the most intriguing thing about Batman is that he always has a plan. And there are endless comic book examples of this, one of the best of which is, Topher mentioned Tower of Babel. But today, as we're recording this, Batman Endgame, the trade paperback, was released. It's Volume 7 of the New 52 Batman series, was released. So go get it. It's totally worth your money, if only for the artwork. But the very first issue, so I'm not spoiling anything, the very first issue of this 6-issue arc features a fight between Batman and the entire Justice League. And
wait, who?
Batman. The man who is bat-like. He takes on the guise of a bat. There's some pearls. It's going to take a second for us to get there, Brent. But,
okay. Whatever.
But it features a fight between Batman and the entire Justice League, and it is.
So does that run about 3 pages?
It is a kind of a punch 'em up, but the best part of it is that Scott Snyder, who I don't think I could jerk this guy off more on our podcast, but Scott Snyder has done a fantastic job of giving you like the justification for why this guy can do this and how he could possibly be so prepared and how he figured out the one shining weakness for a Superman or for a Wonder Woman or for a Flash. And just look at this Greg Capullo artwork and tell me that is not the most beautiful cover to a comic book you've ever seen.
I don't see Martian Manhunter, so it seems to be fucking garbage.
So that's my first. That's Batman Endgame. It is primarily a Joker story, and if you're wondering why is Batman fighting the Justice League, they are Jokerized. Yeah.
So the Martian Manhunter is far too sophisticated.
Oh yeah. He could never get fooled by the Joker.
Hashtag Martian Manhunter.
That's my first one. My second one is hey, I heard about this but haven't read it yet, but it should be on your radar and you should know about it thing. We have talked at length here. We actually did like an entire episode about why we love The Martian. And we've mentioned a couple of different times Ready Player One and Armada by Ernest Cline. And actually, those two worlds cross paths this week when the author of The Martian, Andy Weir, kind of like let loose this Ready Player One fan fiction. So Ready Player One is a universe in which it's in the future and almost everybody lives the majority of their life in a simulation, right? In a video game type simulation. And I'm not going to spoil the book for you because it's pretty good. And on Audible, the audiobook is read by Will Wheaton, who we all love.
You want that.
And so the author of The Martian wrote this fan fiction, and Ernest Cline, the author of Ready Player One, liked it so much that he said, "You know what? That's canon now," which is kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome when two of your favorite nerd-centric writers, have that sort of mutual respect for each other, and those worlds collide. So I haven't read it yet, but the short story is called Lucero, and I'm going to link to it on it's popnerdery.com/talkback, and then there's the host recommendations page. I will link to it there. But I think it should be on your radar, and I'm going to give it a read this week.
Nice. How about you, Toph? That was some excellent stuff from Dave. Hopefully you're coming at us with some heat, buddy.
Bring it.
Yeah, I'm shitting the luck here. So I'm excited about The Americans starting again.
Okay. Hey, there you go. The Americans has flown under my radar. Give me like a quick pitch for why it is worth our time, our binge time.
We're starting the 4th season, I believe, of The Americans. This is a story about KGB agents who are deep undercover in the mid-'80s. Mm-hmm. So it's like on one hand, it's an incredible look back into like the mid-'80s Cold War era. Like we're deep in the Cold War, where we're very terrified of the Soviet Union and rightfully so. These are two people who have they came to America as KGB agents and have integrated themselves into society, and they've actually had kids who are just normal people, and they don't know.
Not a part of the mission.
Right. And so we're now, reaching the part where it's just like season 3 was all about holy shit, where the kids are almost aware enough to understand something is not quite right with their parents. Mm-hmm. So season 4 is going to be about them trying to complete missions, because these are agents who murder people on a regular basis.
Oh, there you go.
And then get home to cook dinner. And
I like that.
Oh yeah, it's the tension is real. So aside from just being a very fun spy story, it also balances some family life stuff. And season 4 just started in the past week, sometime in there. I have the first episode on my DVR, including a season 3 retrospective, which is also a delicious idea. So I would highly recommend, if you are not up on the Americans. I think the majority of the previous seasons are on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So you can go back and get those, and then I think also on Netflix as well. So you can go back and get
Again, just awesome programming from FX. Their stuff is awesome.
They're great.
So good.
It's really good. And so, it's one of those things where it is at its heart a spy story, and at its secondary level is also consequentially also a family story as well, because the two primary characters aren't actually
they were forced together, right?
Right. They didn't get married and have children because they wanted to. They had kids because that was the order from the proletariat. And so yeah, there are a lot of different levels that you could enjoy the Americans on, and it's always also it's a very interesting of the opposite side, right? We're typically very pro-American, and suddenly our protagonists are KGB spies.
Right.
So the new season has just started. I would highly recommend all 3 seasons at this point. It's
nice.
I think 15 or 16 episodes per season, but go back, do that. Do yourself a favor. It's just, and it comes, to me, it hits very hard because I grew up in this era. So it's very interesting to look at someone who may have been working during my childhood, and they do a great job of a lot of period pieces are it's very easy to replicate World War II. This is happening in a time that we all had some memory of,
right? And
it hits very well. They work very hard to make sure that that is not, there's no distraction to it, and instead it's super interesting to look at coming from an opposite angle.
Yeah, interesting.
So
cool.
The Americans, season 4, get you some.
Cool. My recommendations are probably some of the worst that I'm ever going to give you right
Waiting
here.
Waiting on the edge of my seat.
I'm already
They are $0.00 worth of an investment. I am appealing to a very specific demographic of A, musicians, and B, drummers with these recommendations.
That's a small Venn diagram.
I like it.
Yeah, shut up. For all the drummers that I have drawn in to the PopNerdery Podcast, you're welcome, buddies.
Nailed it.
There are 2 really interesting YouTube channels that I have been gobbling up left and right. One is called David R. This dude is just kind of comical in general. He'd be like if Ron Swanson was a lonely hipster drummer, basically. David R takes a lot of very overpriced drum equipment and either refurbs it or builds it on his own, and makes interesting things or figures out way for drummers and or musicians in general to be a little more frugal, which is cool. So for anybody that might be gigging or looking to repurpose some X musical equipment that you had, David R is a really interesting watch. And then there is another YouTube channel, again appealing to drummers, that I've kind of found kind of linked because of David R. There is a musician out there named Harry Meary. I might be saying his name wrong, and if so, I apologize, sir. But he's kind of just a goofy guy to watch anyway. He totally makes ridiculous faces the entire time he drums, but he drums along to songs that are popular and interesting, and he tries to break down kind of the elements of what it means to be a gig drummer, and pick up songs that maybe you don't know you get to listen to once, and how do you actually transcribe a song so that you know how to play it right away.
Do you play drums? Is this a thing?
What are drums? And
prove it.
And Harry also does some cool stuff talking about different drummers, and how you can flip your drum set and play in a much more compelling way. So yeah, those are two YouTube channels. Even if you're not a drummer, I think you might find them interesting a little bit if you were ever curious about what it means to play drums or have drum equipment. So YouTube, I love doing little rabbit hole dives, and that's where I came across David R and Harry Meary.
Watch our channel for Brent playing along with Jacqueline in a sweater any day now.
Yep, it's coming soon, friends, so stay with us until that YouTube video is never uploaded. Anyway,
God damn it!
It's for music dorks, so I'm hoping that it's somewhat in the same wheelhouse. You guys talk about reading books. I can talk about music, okay?
You play some goddamn music, you son of a bitch!
Right. So again, mine was a little off the radar with those, but that's what we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you some deep dives. We're gonna get you some headlines, and we're gonna get you some recommendations, whether you like them or not. So hopefully you guys can feel welcome to come back to episode 17. And with that, I think, gentlemen, we ought to just start finger gun.
Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. You like that little dance I just did, Toph?
It was good. I like that. I like everything about that.